All right. Um, so yesterday we made some nice progress. Actually, got the uh, Linux uh, installation of the Flutter application to interact with the underlying C binaries that we compiled. I think I mentioned in the last one that we kind of got two directions to go here, right? One is the actual development of the app, kind of far enough to, at least for the POC, far enough to uh, see that we can do something simple like send a message or actually interact. I know yesterday we just checked the version, right, which is small, but I think for this POC we want to prove that the actual like interaction and interacting with memory through the native code and that kind of interaction is still supported, right? I mean, returning a constant isn't as impressive as actually retaining information and participating in the tox network, the distributed hash table, sending messages, hole punching, all that, right? So, I mean, all that functionality should be available to us because we're just running native code on a system that supports it. But that's part of what the POC is here to test. All right, so that was the first direction, is kind of filling out the actual application, the uh, that part of it. And then the other part is the other platforms, right? We saw there was quite a bit of effort, I think, just to get the Linux setup running, or maybe not quite a bit of effort, but there was like an hour there of trying to, making sure we could get the compilation to work correctly. So I assume that some of the other platforms will have similar barriers, right, in order to getting precompiled code. Especially in this environment, it would be nice if I could cross-compile for everything. Um, okay, so and on that cross compilation, I know that there's some drawbacks to that, especially with performance, right, and interoperability. But this is a POC, right? I think if we were ever seriously concerned about performance or those kinds of issues, right, we could look into using other operating systems to get native compilations and native binaries, and then putting them in here. And I part of me wonders too if like the number of binaries that we're planning on creating is really enough for every triplet that might operate on the app. I'm not familiar enough with C to know like if there's or with the C compiler tool chains to know uh, where the interoperability lies. Like I'm sure if we have like a Windows 32 compiled binary, that'll work on Windows 64, and there's probably some other interoperability. I don't know, maybe between like Mac OS and iOS, but I really haven't done the research on that. So there's probably a barrier there too. But in any case, we've got two directions to go for this POC. And I'd like to do a little of both today. I don't want to pigeonhole. I don't know which one will get more difficult. So I think integration with Tox is going to definitely require some actual education on how the Tox repo works, how the interaction is supposed to look. I really don't understand. I mean that this file is huge, hundreds of methods and enums and classes and stuff. So and I'm sure I don't need to know all of it for this POC, but to understand how to send a message, I'm sure I'm going to have to, you know, uh, instantiate some stuff, learn some stuff about the environment, set up, and we're going to have to figure out how to do all of that from Dart. So we at least need to know how to do all of it in C. Um, Okay, and then the other half, I think the easiest next platform to go for down here would be the Android one, and the Android toolchain looks very straightforward. I just need to install the Android SDK. Um, or I guess I just have to install Android Studio, and then it will install the SDK for me. Um, let's see if we can knock that out real quick, actually. And then I think there's some sort of emulator for Android devices that I can run directly from this Flutter development environment. I don't have to like, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to actually like have a device or connect with an app. All right, Android Studio Narwhal feature drop, official IDE for Android app development. This is a clean looking IDE. That's not really what we're looking for here, though. Or is that Android Studio download? Is Android Studio the full? I guess I need the full. That's what it is. I need the full IDE for this. Uh, Gemini and Android Studio. Others. All right, install Android Studio. Let's come here. Here we go. I think I'll have enough space. Oh, this is for Windows. The requirement for Windows is that it's okay. Let's see if we scroll down. Is there a Linux or a Unix-based one? Here we go. 64-bit distribution. That should be fine. Should be good. Here we go. tar.gz file downloaded to appropriate location for your applications, such as within user local, for your user profile opt for shared users. 64-bit version of Linux. Install the required binaries for 64-bit machines. I wish they had like oh, here we go. Okay, so I need all this first, and then I can unzip this tar. And then Studio SH to launch. And then there's a setup wizard. Okay. Oh wow, they work on Chrome OS too. Neat. Okay. All right, this does not seem too complicated. Let's not complicate it more than it needs to be. Complicated it. Okay. Let's drop that in. These look like a bunch of libc, a bunch of C libraries. Unable to locate package lib and curses 5 i386. i386. Oh, if you are running a 64-bit version of Ubuntu, you need to install some 32-bit binaries with this command. Interesting, but I can't locate all of these. Is that a correct understanding? Is there a... What is happening here? Is that extra space messing with it? No, libn curses 5 i386. I wonder if there's a different... if this is older, or there's something recently installed both. I think like Ubuntu 24 or something like that. Cancel. Okay. Let's see. 64-bit download. Okay. Let's see. dpkg add, update your package lists. Okay, gotcha. So I may not have a multi-architecture setup. So it probably only sees the packages supported by your architecture. So I have to add another architecture in order to see those packages. Let's see. Okay, and then sudo, what was it, sudo apt update. It's probably to get the latest version of all these lists. Yeah, look at that, i386 packages. Okay. All right, and now let's see if we install. No, still can't find it. It's impossible. Okay, so maybe I already had multi-architecture enabled. Okay, package search recalled. So let's load 5. Oh, look at this. Shared libraries for handling all of these. Okay. Oh no, here he goes. Bullseye is the old version. Old stable, old stable. So do I need the dev? All right, I'm gonna put Ubuntu and see if they're a little more, a little consumer friendly here, just for me. The universe pocket. Oh, I like this idea. I can clear out this architecture and foreign architecture business. That's cool. Okay, so I'm AMD64. That one I could have told you. Foreign architectures. Okay, so I did add that correctly. Need to add to source list and install. Oh, look at that. Security main universe. Interesting. Let's try this. Okay, so there is like a repository I'm not seeing. What is deb? Hold on. Let's try you. Oh, look at that. Security would do. That was one that was in the other question. All right, let's see. Still can't get it. It's all going to be downloading this package, isn't it? All right. Oh, it's a self-referential package. Cool. Multiverse universe. Confusing. All right. We won't go down that path. At least not right now. Whoa. libncurses 6. Is that different from what I was just looking at? libncurses 5. Maybe that's what it is. That might be the deal. Is that I need libncurses 6 now. Oh my gosh. Okay. I can check that in a moment. Let's see if that's actually our issue. Is that? There it is. It's libncurses 6. I don't know if that's a versioning change or a rebuild or what. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's get rid of libncurses 5 because that's just not going to be found. Let's see if this is enough. Beautiful. All right, let's see if this is enough for Android Studio. Let's download the required libraries. The tar.gz and then unpack it within user local. Fair enough. Did that start the download already? run apps on the Android emulator. So Android Studio comes with an emulator. I wonder if for the Android side of it, I shouldn't even use VS Code if I'm supposed to use Android Studio for my Flutter development too. Tough to say. All right, I don't think I'm actually downloading anything. I think I'm just lost here. Let's go back. Here we go. Darn it. It felt like I could not avoid it. Here we go. Code Lab. Okay. This is where I thought I'd be. Licensing agreement for using the Android SDK. Terminated by Google. Google APIs. Intellectual property rights. Patch 1 for Linux. Okay, I don't think this is just it's interesting that they say like the patch or the feature drop. It makes me wonder if it's like an update for an existing application or it's actually the full application. But I think this is the full application. It's just feature drop. It makes it sound like it's a drop of new features on an existing application. Maybe that's just me. All right, got a half a second there. So this might, or half a minute. So this might be an appropriate time to come over and start reading through this, right? So there's quite a bit to this. I kind of wonder if I should maybe find a way to visualize this. That might be a useful part of this POC. Okay, public core API for Tox clients. Every function that can fail takes a function-specific error code pointer that can be used to diagnose problems with the Tox state or the function arguments. Okay, we saw a little bit of that yesterday, right? That you always pass in kind of a pointer to a specific enum, a function-specific enum, right? And then they have different error codes that result from that. And that's kind of how you get the failure reason for each of these. Allocation functions. Okay, so the allocation functions don't do this. They just return null if they fail. Makes sense. There's also an OK value in each enum. Error code uninitialized before passing it to the function library guarantees that after returning, okay, so it doesn't have to be initialized. You just need, all right, beautiful. You just need a pointer to an enum function uninitialized. Functions with pointer parameters often have a null error code, meaning they could not perform any operation. Because one of the required parameters was null. Some functions operate correctly or are defined as effectless on null. Oh, okay. Interesting. The null error code indicates that they couldn't perform any operation because one of the required parameters was null. So if you pass a required parameter as null, your error code comes back with that. I think it's the enum value null is what they're saying. I could be wrong though. It could just be a null error code. All right, some functions additionally return a value outside their return type domain or a bool containing true on success or false on failure. Interesting. Functions passed take a tox instance pointer will cause undefined behavior when passed a null tox pointer. Okay, so you never want to pass a null tox pointer. You should. I wonder if there's like one global kind of tox instance that we're going to kind of maintain on our side, on the client side, and that kind of has the full state that we're passing in. It kind of makes, I think that kind of design would make a lot of the tox. I think it would make it a lot easier for tox clients, right? If every API is essentially past the state and all of the options, and then it's kind of a state, the behavior from the tox perspective is a little stateless. Okay, probably makes sense for managing memory too. Okay. Additionally, return all functions that take a tox instance pointer will cause, okay. All integer values are expected in host byte order. Okay. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Host byte order. As long as the compilations are correct. I guess I have to kind of hope that FFI is taking care of that for me, right? I would assume, right, that the application that's running the Dart application, the operating system running the Dart application should be the same one executing the binaries. I guess it's possible that maybe there are host operating systems with different byte orders that use the same binaries. No way. I guess that is a possibility. I don't know. We're going to have to ignore that for this POC. That seems like that could be, I don't know. If FFI doesn't take care of that for you, then that's, in like their conversion between types, then that's going to be very complicated. Okay. Functions with parameters with enum types cause unspecified behavior if the enumeration value is outside the valid range of the type. If possible, the function will try to use a sane default, but there will be no error code, and one possible action for the function to take is to have no effect. Okay, so you should not be setting enums to values that don't exist before passing them as parameters. That makes sense. I think that's fair. Integer constants in the memory layout of the publicly exposed structs are not part of the ABI. What is ABI? Sorry, is that not clearly specified? What is ABI? Is that a common software term? They refer to it quite casually. I don't know if it's specific to Tox or not. I don't know why I said Flutter. That's just how I've been doing. Application binary interface. Exposed by software that is defined for in-process machine code access. Interface exposed by software that is defined for in-process machine. A complete ABI enables a program that supports an ABI to run without modification on multiple operating systems that provide the ABI. The target system must provide any required libraries that implement the ABI, and there must be other prerequisites. Interesting. API compatibility is generally the concern for system design. A programmer may have to deal with an ABI directly when writing a program in multiple languages or when using multiple compilers for the same language. Interesting. the source code. Oh, interesting. It's like the oh wow, that is very interesting. I guess it's this idea that before compilation, as long as you compile them on the same system, the APIs are guaranteed because they're in the languages, right? And then as long as they're compiled on the same system with the correct dependencies, there's a guarantee that it'll work. But if you're pre-compiling, which we are in this case, right, then you're relying on kind of the ABI, right? This idea that the instruction set from the compilations are going to be interoperable with each other. Okay, so that might be relevant to me. That was excellent. I'm glad we looked that up. Integer constants and memory layout of publicly exposed structs are not part of the ABI. Okay. So it's saying I'm offering to you functions that you can call, but how I'm actually implementing them, such as the constants internally that I'm using to implement them, the memory layout, even if the structs are publicly exposed, that's not part of the ABI. Okay, that's not guaranteed to whoever's calling. Okay, events and callbacks. Events are handled by callbacks. One callback can be registered per event. Whoa. All events have a callback function named tox_event CB, and a function to register it named toxCallbackEvent. Okay, so passing a null callback will result in no callback being registered for that event. Only one callback per event can be registered, so if a client needs multiple event listeners, it needs to implement the dispatch functionality itself. Oh my gosh. Okay, the last argument to a callback is the user data pointer. It is passed from toxIterate to each callback in sequence. The user data pointer is never stored or dereferenced by any library code, so it can be any pointer, including null. Wow. Okay. So all of the events have a callback function that you can register, right? You register a callback function, and then the function calls it. Okay. And you can only have one, right? So if I need two people to see an event, or if I need two components to see an event, I have to write that. That's fine. Last argument is a user data pointer. So this is just saying I can use it for whatever I want, right? I can use it to keep track of anything I want. I can point it to say something that's waiting for this event. Okay. Okay, threading implications. It is possible to run multiple concurrent threads with a tox instance for each thread. It is also possible to run all tox instances in the same thread. A common way to run tox, multiple or single instance, is to have one thread running a simple toxIterate loop, sleeping for tox iteration interval milliseconds on each iteration. Okay, if you want to access a single tox instance from multiple threads, access to the instance must be synchronized. While multiple threads can concurrently access multiple different tox instances, no more than one API function can operate on any single instance at a given time. Okay, fair enough. So I'm not exactly sure what the tox instance, I thought it was the state of everything. So I guess you could have like multiple, tox instances running. I'm trying to think of a modern application functionality where you would want that. I wonder if you could be maybe logged in as multiple users could be using the same device at the same time and keeping track of different operations. And you could ideally have one program that manages both of them. It's strange to me though to think about like multiple users, but I guess that's not too crazy, right? Because there are people who, you know, maybe have like I think of like Gmail, how it might have multiple emails, right? You might have to log into each one individually, but you might, I said Gmail, but any emails, right? You could have multiple email accounts set up on your phone, right? I guess same thing with phone numbers if you have multiple SIM cards, right? So there are other instances where like this is normal for a messaging application to provide support to multiple, like, I keep saying users. I can't imagine another corresponding concept for what a Tox instance represents other than a user, right? But I have a very limited understanding of a Tox instance, so maybe wrong. We'll have to dig a little further to figure that out. Okay, functions that write to variable length byte arrays will always have a size function associated with them. The result of this size function is only valid until another mutating function, one that takes a pointer to non-constant tox, is called. Functions that write to a variable length byte array. Okay. Thus, clients must ensure that no other thread calls a mutating function between the call to the size function and the call to the retrieval function. Okay, so every time you want to retrieve something, there's a retrieval function to actually retrieve those bytes. These are variable length byte arrays. Like if you're getting a message, a string, a variable length string, character byte array, you also call the size function to figure out the length of that array. And it's saying even if there's time between the calling of those two methods, which is fine, you can't call another Tox instance in between that does another retrieval that would change the length of that byte array. Okay, that just makes sense. To get the current nickname, one would write, okay, size t length, get name size, Tox, there you go. And then name, you would allocate the memory for the length of that array. And then if not name, you would abort. And then you could call get name with Tox name. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. If any other thread calls Tox self set name, while this thread is allocating memory, the length may have become invalid, and the call to Tox self get name may cause undefined behavior. Right, okay, so that's just an example of what we talked about. Some functions and types are deprecated. We recommend compiling with dtox hide deprecated to hide them. They will be removed in the next major version of Tox. And since we're still in major version 0, that means the next minor version. Okay, so in 0.3 is what they're saying. They're just gonna get rid of the deprecated code. Can't get rid of it yet because people might still be relying on it because it's not a major version upgrade. Gotcha. Okay. Tox options.h. No idea. All right. Here we go. The Tox instance type, the state associated with a connection. All of the state associated with the connection is held within the instance. Multiple instances can exist and operate concurrently. The maximum number of Tox instances that can exist on a single network device is limited. Note that this is not just a per process limit, since the limiting factor is the number of usable ports on a device. Wow, okay. That makes sense. Okay, so each Tox instance is going to take a port. It's going to require a port. And once you run out of ports, obviously you can't create new Tox instances. Okay, gotcha. So it is kind of like, I guess it's not just a user. It's saying like, yeah. But that's what I think. I can't think of another reason why you would want multiple instances outside of a user unless you were using Tox for non-messaging purposes, right? So I could see if you were using Tox to share files or something like that, then there might be, you know, some sort of software. I don't know why you would use Tox for this, but if you were doing that, right, you might want some sort of parallelism that would come from multiple network connections on separate ports, or if there was like a well, see, even then, though, are you really getting any added bandwidth by doubling your ports? The I/O is probably not the bottleneck, and even if it is, you're not increasing the I/O here. Yeah, okay. I'm going to imagine this as users for all intents and purposes, until I see a good reason to think of it otherwise. All right, but that's called the tox. Okay. And then let's see. I have a major. Can I see tox C? I just want to see if there's a little bit more information here. Struct tox user data. Okay, so maybe user data is the user and tox is the tox. Let's see. Where do they define the struct tox? Maybe they don't. I'm still trying to find the user data here. Is that defined in the... Alright, well, let's keep going. We'll have to find that later. Okay. Incremental when the API changes. Compatible wave, function variance of these constants returned 0 to 21. There you go. Set to 0 when the major version is incremented without changing any functionality or API. Beautiful. Okay. Tox style. A macro to check at pre-processing time whether the client code is compatible with the installed version of Tox. Leading zeros in the number are ignored. That's cool. Is Tox API? Tox version is API compatible, minor, major, patch. Cool, so you can call this. Okay. Version is compatible. That's fun. Convenience macro to call Tox version is compatible with the current compiling API version. Okay. Alrighty. Numeric constants, the values of these are not part of the ABI. Prefer to use the function versions of them for code that should remain compatible with future versions of the Tox library. So this is what they're saying, right? Is that these publicly defined integers are not, you should never read these directly. They're not part of the ABI. They're not guaranteed to be compatible across releases, but the functions should be. Or across installations, right? But the functions should be. Key size, conference UID size. Okay. Tox public key is 32 bytes. Secret key, 32 bytes. Conference unique ID in bytes. Conference ID size. Interesting. Okay, conference unique ID in bytes. What the heck? Am I getting punked here? The size of a Tox conference unique ID in bytes. The size of a Tox conference unique ID in bytes. But this one says ID and this one says unique ID. That's the only difference, ID and UID. Oh, because this one's deprecated. Okay. All right. So we used to say UID, but now we just say ID. I wonder why they made that choice. All right. I'm not going to go through the whole file like this. I'm just trying to understand enough of the basic understanding of what these references are so that I can actually write the tox client. So I apologize to anyone, trying to stay awake through this, but just trying to get a good understanding. Okay, size of a tox address. Tox addresses are in the format. Public key, size in bytes, no spam, 4 bytes, checksum 2 bytes. Okay, checksum is computed over the public key and the no spam value. The first byte is an XOR of all the even bytes, and the second byte is an XOR of all the odd bytes of the public key and no spam. So I wonder if every time you send in the public key, you have to send a different no spam, and then obviously a new checksum that agrees with the no spam. Got you. And the address size is going to be the public key size, 32 bytes, 4 bytes, 2 bytes. So 38 bytes. Cool. Okay. Length of a nickname in bytes, 128. This is 120 bytes. Max name length. Max status message. You can have statuses. That's cool. Okay. Status message in bytes. Max status message length. Max friend request length. This one's deprecated. Max message length. Custom packet size. Hash length. File ID length. Okay, a lot of lengths. Here we go. Global enumeration. Possible statuses a client can have. None is online and available. Away. Clients set this example after a user-defined inactivity time. Set this, okay. User is busy, signals to other clients that this client does not currently wish to communicate. Okay, so this is like my status. Am I away, am I busy, or am I online? Cool. Tox user status, gotcha, okay. Status to string, tox message type, normal or action. A normal text message, similar to, I don't understand that reference. A message describing a user action. /me. Okay, gotcha. Tox message type to string. Creation and destruction. Function returned successfully. Tox error new. Okay. Okay, so this is the new function if you're creating a new tox. Okay, null. Unable to allocate enough memory to store the internal structures. Couldn't allocate a port. Okay, I probably don't need to go through every possible error message. Tox new. Here we go. Creates and initializes a new instance with the options passed. This function will bring the instance into a valid state. Running the event loop with a new instance will operate correctly. Running the event loop with a new instance will operate correctly. An options object tox iterate for the event loop. Okay, tox kill releases all resources associated with the tox instance and disconnects from the network. Function, the tox pointer becomes invalid. No other functions can be called, and the pointer value can no longer be read. Okay, so create a new one, destroy it. Beautiful. Okay, tox get save data size. Calculates the number of bytes required to store the tox instance with tox get save data. This function cannot fail. The result is always greater than 0. Threading for concurrency implications. Number of bytes to store the tox instance. That's interesting, right? Because Dart is going to have to persist this tox instance some way, somehow. Store all information associated with the tox instance to a byte array. Save data. memory region large enough to store the tox instance data. Call tox get save data to find the number of bytes required. If this parameter is null, this function has no effect. Oh, that's cool. It does its own persistence. Okay. Tox error bootstrap. One of the arguments to the function was null when it was not expected. Lifecycle and event loop. Okay. Sends a node's request to the given bootstrap node with IP, port, and public key to set up connections. That's a node's request. Connect to the node using UDP. You must use this function if UDP enabled was set to false. Even if it was set to false. The hostname or IP address of the node must be toxmax name length characters, port, public key, true on success. So this starts up a connection, right? We must be reaching out to a known tox node. Host pairs TCP relay. This function can be used to initiate TCP connections to different ports on the same bootstrap node or to add TCP relays without using them as bootstrap nodes. Okay, tox connection. This instance or the friend the state changes about is now offline. Oh, so it's either this instance or my friend's instance. My connection or my friend's connection. UDP, TCP, or none. That's interesting that, like, you always know if it's TCP or UDP. Okay. Okay. Tox connection to string. Tox self-get connection status. Okay, tox callback self-connection status. Iteration interval. This event is triggered when there is a, gotcha. This event is triggered when there is a DHT connections, a change in the DHT connection state distributed hash table. When disconnected, the client may choose to call tox bootstrap again to reconnect to the DHT. Note that this state may frequently change for short amounts of time. Client should therefore not immediately bootstrap on receiving a disconnect. How long should a client wait before? Not going to answer that one. Okay. Or tox iterate should be called again for optimal performance. That's cool. They provide that information. Okay, tox iterate, the main loop that needs to be run in intervals of tox iteration interval milliseconds. Any pointer that a client wishes the tox instance to pass into the event callbacks. Okay, and then, gotcha. No spam. Self-get address. Self-get public key. Self-set name. Set the nickname for the tox client. Nickname length cannot exceed tox max name length. If length is 0, the name parameter is ignored and the nickname is set back to empty. Get name. Write the nickname. If no nickname was set before calling this function, the name is empty and the function has no effect. Set status message. Okay, so setting and getting a name and a status seem very straightforward. And then this is the friend interaction. Unique identifiers used in all functions that operate on friends. Once added, a friend number is stable for the lifetime of the tox object. After saving the state and reloading it, the friend numbers may not be the same as before. Deleting a friend creates a gap in the friend number set, which is filled by the next adding of a friend. Any pattern in the friend numbers should not be relied on. Function cannot handle more than 2 billion friends. Yeah, there you go. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Add a friend without sending a friend request. Friend in response to a friend request. No request. There you go. A friend request message must be at least, okay, add a friend to the friend list. Friend numbers are unique identifiers used to, okay. The address of the friend, returned by tox self get address of the friend you wish to add. It must be of tox address size. Tox self get address. Okay, hold on. How did tox self get address work? Writes the tox friend address of the client to a byte array. Is not in human readable format. If a client wants to display the address, formatting is required. So we have to share our addresses one way or another, right? Like I can get my own address and then provide it right to the friend, semi outside of this application, or at least via the clients, and then they can add me, and that'll send a message through the network. Okay. Beautiful. Removes a friend from the friend list queries. Got to create a friend before we can communicate, I guess. Tox friend get public key. Copies the public key associated with a given friend to a byte array. Right. Okay. Probably the DHT stores everyone's address and public key. That would make sense. And then your private key timestamp for the last friend associated with a given friend request. Okay. All right. Let's pause here. Let's see if our download completed. It was only supposed to take 30 seconds. It's been over half an hour, so I hope it has. There we go. All right, and then we were going to put this in user local and extract it. We should be able to knock that out. Let's go to, it should be in my downloads folder, right? There we go, and let's copy this into user local. Oh, copy this to user local, no permission. I think tar has a way to set like a destination. I don't know what that is though, that flag, and I feel like this is quick. There we are. All right. Let's remove this. And then let's go to here we go. And then tar, what is it? ZXVF. Z for the GZ. Oh, should I put it in here? Should I put it in the bin? What is it? What? Do they have some sort of preview I can look at here? I just don't know what's actually what I'm getting. Oh my gosh, there's a bin and etc. Include lib man share source. Right. Oh, I should put it in user share. Or user local share? Well, I'm certainly not separating them all out. Let's put it in user local share. Or sbin. What's this? Alright, let's put this in here. I do not have that authority. There we go. Nice, I can read, but I can't execute. All right, it's in there. To share, and then tar cxvf. Gonna definitely need sudo for this. Sudo for everything these days. All right, I like this little X while it's still being operated on. Like, don't try it. All right, and now let's see if this works. And then it's just Studio SH. Improve Android Studio. Sure. All right, it's opening up on another. Here, I'll bring this over. Welcome. Okay, here's the setup wizard that we saw. Let's do standard. Don't know enough to not do it. Oh, and we get the emulator and the SDK. Okay, those are the two things that we definitely needed. I will accept the licenses on all of these, and man, yeah, I tell you what, Google and Android, take it seriously. There you go. Virtual machine acceleration through KVM, kernel-based virtual machine software package. Enable KVM for better performance for the Android emulator. You see, and I'm not sure how much that enhancement really helps, especially if I'm not doing like some performance intensive tasks. Wow, I'll tell you what, all the extra packages and libraries that I've installed since the beginning of this and different applications just to get this application up and running, it has been about 20 gigs, I think, because I think I had about 100 gigs available when I maybe, man, see, I can't remember exactly how much, but I think I had about 100 gigs of available space before I started this. So that's it's big. It's big. But the actual application is so small right now. But it's kind of nice that there's so much development infrastructure in place for Flutter already. I say already, but I know it's been out for a while. I work in backend completely, like business to business backend. So I'm not necessarily working on any UI frameworks outside of the occasional personal project, right? So it is interesting to see how much when I dip my toe in every few years to the front end and the application development side of it all, like how far things are coming. I am sure for people in the industry it feels like it's slow, and there's only a few real frameworks out there that real companies use and real startups use. But from my perspective, it feels like it's always something completely new every time I try and do a new POC or a new application just to get familiar with it. All right, the second half of that loading bar was much faster than the first half. Looks like we got the SDK installed, and it looks like Android Studio is up and running. Now, from the Flutter Doctor, I feel like it seemed at the beginning like I didn't actually need Android Studio as much as I needed the SDK. Look at that! Android Studio up and running. Flutter plugin. JetBrains, Java version is there. So, can I run on Android? Does that work? Just like that? Oh, I only have Linux. Oh, so this is where like I have to start up an emulator. Okay, so can I do that? Let's see. Is that difficult? Of course it's not going to work. I need to compile into C. So how with Android Studio can I get this native C code to be available? Okay. Okay, where was the C interop? Let's see, was there any information on Android? Okay, C interop. Flutter Dart FFI, bundle and load C libraries for Android apps. There we go. We got a little extra walkthrough. Binding to native Android code using Dart FFI. Flutter and mobile desktop apps called native C apps. FFI, there we go. You can use the FFI library to native code. You must ensure that the native code is loaded and its symbols are visible to Dart. Compiling packages, loading Android native code within a Flutter plugin or app. Tutorial demonstrates how to bundle C and C++ sources in a Flutter program, bind them using the Dart FFI library on both Android and iOS. There we go. Okay. This is what I did to some extent. A dynamically linked library, by contrast. On Android, dynamically linked library is distributed as a set of .so files. Oh, I already have a .so, but I don't think it'll work on Android. To link against the platform libraries, CMake or NDK build. Look at that. Follow the add C and C++ on Android docs to add native code and support for the native toolchain. Okay, this is something I saw earlier, looked into, and skipped over because it wasn't relevant to what I was doing on Linux. But now that I'm on Android, it looks like this might be exactly what I need. Okay, developer at android.com has been so slow this entire project. It's not my connection. It's like all the other web pages are fine. It's just this. Anything with this URL is, sorry, this domain here is really taking some time. I don't know. Is it down? Does down detector developer Android? Oh, it is. Look at that. Look how the AI said no. It's not a problem. No, up. Status history looks the same. Pings look fine. Is it just me? All right, we're gonna have to pick this up in the next video. There was some excellent progress today, though, in understanding Tox and getting Android Studio installed. Hopefully we can make a little progress on both of those fronts next time. Thank you.